Hi there, it's Jeanette. Today I have a card that features a ocean scene. I used a few Lawn Fawn sets to create this scene. I used the Mermaid for You set, the Critters in the Sea, as well as the Fantastic Friends set. I also used their stitched rectangles and their waves dies to create the Vellum waves to give you an underwater effect. So we're going to get started. I'm going to share with you how I created the card. This is a piece of Canson watercolor paper. Right now I'm sponging on some twisted citron. The next color is Mermaid Lagoon. And I'll just go back and blend those two colors together so it's nice and even. And this last color is Blueprint Sketch. And I have a piece of scrap paper here. I'm just holding that on top of the ink so I don't leave finger marks. I went and got my tumbled glass. I had forgot to bring it with me, so I'm putting tumbled glass along the top. So you have a nice sort of gradual change in colors. And then I have the distressed sprayer. And I'm just spritzing water on the paper. I'm waiting a few seconds and then I'm just sort of mopping it up with this paper towel. And you can just add as much or as little as you want to get that distressed effect. So now I just pulled out all the different sets that I thought I'd be using, and I have a piece of Neenah cardstock here. And I'll just start laying out all the images that I want to stamp so I can stamp them all at once. So from the Mermaid for You set, I have that little girl and boy mermaid. I have the narwhal, the octopus and the dolphin and the turtle, as well as that seahorse. They are from the Critters in the Sea. I'm just going to start stamping those, and that one didn't stamp very well. So I just sort of flipped the paper over and started again. I'm using Memento Tuxedo Black ink. I'm trying to stamp them so there's enough spacing around them so that when I do the die cutting with the dies, there's enough space for the dies to be all together so I can pass it through just once or maybe twice. So then I pulled out the Fantastic Friends set, and there's two little fish in there that I'm going to be using. I'm going to stamp those off. And in between stamping, I'm just cleaning those stamps and replacing them. So now the coloration is going to be done with Copic markers. I've listed all the numbers that I used in, basically they're in order of when I'm using them. And I generally go from light to dark and then blend backwards. So I'm going to leave you for now with a little bit of music so you can watch the coloration, and then I'll catch you at the end of the coloration to finish off the rest of the card. So I'm pretty much finished now my coloration. I'm just sort of using that blender pen to remove any unwanted color that sort of went past the lines. And I'm also taking the darkest marker color in each of the color combos for each little critter, and I'm adding a little dot detail. So that just brings them to life a little bit more. It gives them a little bit more dimension. It adds a little bit more interest, and I think it looks really cute on these particular animals. So almost finished here. I'm just doing the tail of the two little mer people. And I'll end up putting a little bit on the turtle as well. And then for the die cutting, I'm going to take each of the coordinating dies and I will secure them onto the paper using some post-it tape. There, I realized there was a little bit of color off that line, so I just sort of pushed it in with the blender pen. Some of my images I did end up stamping them too close together, so I did have to sort of pass this through a couple of times. These ones are lining up great, so I just passed it through that first time. I'm going to pop all the images out. I try to pile up my dies together so I won't lose any, and then anything that was uncut I will put the dies over that. I decided I wanted to stamp a little bit of the seaweed and the coral. That is from the Mermaid for You set, so I did that and then pulled out the dies to die cut those. And those other images I did not have the die cuts. I ended up having to fussy cut them myself, which wasn't a big deal. There wasn't too many to do. I'm just taking that original panel that we had made, and I am going to cut out the center using the second largest stitched rectangle dies. And then I took some vellum and I used, I can't remember the name of it, but it's the waves, the die cut waves. I'll leave links to it at the bottom of the video. And I cut out waves with the vellum, sort of different lengths so that I can overlap them. You can see the die there that I used. So now I'm ready to start assembling everything. I'm going to start placing the vellum, sort of get an idea of how it's going to look. Sometimes you picture things in your head and they don't always sort of look the same. So this looked pretty much like I had envisioned. So I'm going to be tucking some of the animals underneath different layers of the vellum and have part of them popping up out of the vellum. So just try to organize myself. I decided it would be better to sort of place that insert right onto the card base. So I'm just securing the frame to the card base with a little bit of post-it tape so that I can adhere that center part. Then I'm going to adhere down the vellum, and I'm just adhering it at the bottom where it's going to be covered by the frame. So that was sort of the larger piece of vellum. This one's a little bit shorter. And once everything's mostly in place, I decided not to put that third one on yet. I'm going to start tucking all the images in. I'm using some glue dots on the back of the images to secure them. It's pretty quick and easy that way. So I wanted the two little mer people, the mer boy and the mer girl, to be up at the top there, sort of holding hands above the waves. And then I just started tucking those critters in, some under, some over. I like how they sort of peek out from behind the waves. Put the octopus behind that layer of vellum there, and I'm putting some of the seaweed and the coral that I had stamped and die cut. There's my third layer of vellum. Sort of adhered that down. Decided to put the turtle, wasn't sure where I was going to put him, above or below. And then I ended up not having any space for the seahorse, so I put him aside for another project. I'm putting those two little fish, and I am just adhering the sides with some glue dots so that the vellum stays down. I ended up realizing that you could not see the octopus very well. He was under 2 layers of vellum, so I just removed him and just tucked him under that first layer. I am going to now stamp the sentiment onto the frame. I'm using my Misty tool so that I can line it up perfectly. Stamping that with some blue ink. I did it 2 times. Actually, I did it 3 times so that I got a nice impression. That's why I love using my Misty tool. And now I can put some foam adhesive onto the sides so that it sort of lifts off a little bit of the card, adds more dimension again. And then I'll be able to put that right over top the card, and my card will be done. I hope you enjoyed watching me make my little ocean scene. Thank you so much for watching. I will have a full list of all the products that I used as well as their links on my blog and below this video on YouTube. Thank you.